Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Seven Living with the Planets. I am Lucy Baldwin, and today's episode is all about shadow work. So, the truth is that when I teach magic, I always incorporate what I'm talking about today, shadow work. I always incorporate it into all of my programs because I actually think that this is an essential piece of the puzzle. Also, arguably, magic is shadow work. Magic is arguably a form of shadow work because shadow work is all about working with the unconscious, though specifically the part of our unconscious that we are ashamed of, the part that we are hiding from ourselves, really. And the thing is with the shadow that it's called the shadow because we can't see it, right? It is the part of us that we other to such an extreme degree that we essentially refuse to acknowledge its existence. And this is why the shadow has undue power over us. And this is where, with magic, we can use magic to unravel the shadow. We can use magic to reclaim parts of ourselves. I wouldn't say that all magic is shadow work, but certainly it can be shadow work. And I like to explicitly use magic to do shadow work and use ritual to communicate with that part of ourselves and unlock pieces of ourselves. So let's get into it. The first thing I want to talk about is why it is that the shadow is so powerful, why it is that this part of ourselves has undue consequences if we don't kind of resolve it. Because I've been in this world for a long time, and what I've seen is that people always are scared that if they own their shadows, if they own and accept the parts of themselves that they've been ashamed of, the parts of themselves that they don't want to be parts of themselves, that they will become those things, right? It's like we're afraid that if we acknowledge, if we admit, if we own our rage, that we will become a rageaholic. We're concerned that if we admit to ourselves that we can be manipulative, for example, that we will become a manipulator. And so I think one of the most important things that I want to convey here is that it is actually by not admitting those things that you lose power, you lose the ability to have any say in it whatsoever. Right? If you just deny the existence of something, that does not make it go away. And it actually puts you in a position to have no negotiating power, let's say. Like you can't negotiate with that part. If you can't even see it, if you can't even admit to it, if you can't even acknowledge its existence, you have absolutely no ability to contain it, moderate it, stop it, slow it down, interfere with those patterns. So when you fly into a rage and you start kicking things, if you believe yourself that you're a nonviolent person, then you have no control in that situation because there is a part of you that's violent. And there's a big piece here, which is that we live a very cushy life in a very cushy society where we are insulated from some of the darker pieces of the human experience. We are insulated from, death. Like I think about death. I studied to be an EMT because I was fascinated with the world of emergency medicine, but also cleanup. Like somebody gets into a car accident and you could drive by that same place on that road 10 minutes later and you will have no idea that anything ever happened. It's like a whole crew of people just come in and make it disappear and you never have to see it. And so we are insulated from these truths. And in a way, we're very lucky because we don't have to face death. Like we don't have to see it all the time. We don't have to face our own darkness. We're not asked to have to kill other people to protect ourselves for the most part. We have the luxury of not ever having to fear for our lives for the most part and defend ourselves from true like life-threatening danger for the most part. I keep hedging because I don't know what your lived experience is. I've been in a few situations that were scary, and I know a lot of people who've been in situations where they feel like their life was being threatened. But like you in general, we're mostly insulated from that. Most of us have never been in a situation where we had to kill someone. And so we don't know what we're capable of because we haven't, most of us, been pushed to the limits of having to protect ourselves, the limits of our own fear, our own discomfort. We're relatively safe in the culture and society that we live in, and we're relatively comfortable. So it's easy for us to like shun the idea that we don't have those human animal instincts. We are animals and we forget that. We are animals. We are such weird, pampered animals. um, and so I just want to remind you of that. And this is where obviously it makes sense that we have these cultural norms and cultural expectations, and we hold ourselves and each other to certain standards of behavior. And we go around and we do, um, just there's so many things that we do for show, as like showing that we're safe, that we're not going to harm you, that we're participating in society. These are signals, like we're constantly signaling. And other animals do this too. And it's not necessarily just for reproduction, obviously. It's for fitting in with society. And we do it for ourselves, we do it for our families, we do it for our friends, we do it for our kids. And so I guess where I'm going with this is just to say that it makes sense that we have these like standards, standards of behavior, standards of how to be. I mean, in some societies, like a woman showing her hands is like extremely taboo, or showing her wrists is extremely taboo. And for us, showing boobs is taboo, right? But like if you go to France, it's not as taboo. And so we follow these rules in society, and we do that because it helps with like social cohesion, right? That's how everybody gets along and plays by the rules. And then you can be like a crazy adventurer and break the rules. And I'm certainly a rule breaker. Anyways, what I'm saying is there are obviously societies and cultures where breaking the rules can cost you your life. So that's a totally different game. And we are actually lucky enough here where I am and where you probably are if you're watching this, that we can break the rules, and we don't generally have to worry about our lives being threatened or major consequences because these rules are made up. Right? We are just animals. And what I'm getting at is that we have a lot of rules that we follow. And some of those are culturally imposed, and some of them suck and we don't like them and we don't agree with them. And some of them we do agree with and we do go along with and we like them. And whatever you feel about the rules, we all have also a whole individual set of rules that we follow, a whole individualized set of beliefs about who we are, about what it means to be what we are. So, like, I'm a successful magic teacher. So, I believe, the rules that I have to follow is like, I have to live a magical life. I have to do my offerings every day. I have to do regular rituals. Otherwise, I'm not being that identity of a good magical teacher, right? I have to show up and do the work. I have to work through my shit, and apply the tools that I teach. Or if you're like a financial coach, it's like I have to have a lot of money in order to be a successful financial coach. If you're like a trainer, it's like I have to be skinny and fit and hot. We create these rules for ourselves. It's like, what it looks like to be a mom. I have to throw extravagant birthday parties. I have to make sure my child never experiences discomfort. I have to make sure my child is safe all the time. I have to make sure my child gets perfect grades. I don't follow most of those rules that I just mentioned. Like, I definitely try to keep my kids safe, and I do not throw them extravagant birthday parties. At all. Okay. So, and I also don't, I think that it is really crucial that we allow our kids to feel discomfort. Otherwise, they'll never learn how to cope with discomfort. Okay. So we have a lot of rules. And basically, the shadow, it's the part of us that we shun. It's the part of us that we don't accept, don't acknowledge, like refuse to, like we push it away, we hide it from ourselves, we pretend it doesn't exist, we other it. That's the best way. We other it. Um, that's not me. I don't do that. I don't feel that. I don't have that. That's not me. And these rules that we have, these ideas that we have about how we should be and who we should be and what we should do, first of all, they often contradict each other. We learn implicitly through witnessing our parents, but we also learn explicitly through what they tell us to do. So, like most of us, say one thing, do another, right? As parents, that's what our parents did. That's what we do as parents do, right? This is why I make so much effort to not be on my phone around my kids. I just leave it like in the other room. Like I don't want my kids seeing me on my phone. I never want my kids to see me scrolling Instagram, basically, because then I'm demonstrating that habit for them. They're learning to do that by being around me doing it. So this is an important thing. And this is why being a mom is great because it forces me to like be better than I would be. I think if I didn't have kids and I wasn't trying to like not look at my phone around them, I would spend way more time on my phone. I'm not perfect at this. There's so many things that we all do. The point is that we're not perfect. But we always, our parents like taught us these ideals, like, don't do this, don't do that, but like do this and do that. And then they did whatever they did. And we saw them doing whatever they were doing. And our parents were functional in some ways, and some of them were very dysfunctional. And, that's just their experience. And they're doing their best. We're all doing our best for the most part. And I know that what happens is we have these contradictory beliefs and behaviors. So we act in ways that contradict how we think we should act. Of course, we're hypocritical, we're contradictory, we are complex creatures. We don't have perfect self control. Ain't nobody have perfect self control. We just don't. It's not part of the human package. Okay. We weren't born with that. We don't have it. It's never going to happen. Let it go. Okay. We don't have super good self-control. And also there have been studies there are studies that have shown that you can actually wear down your self-control. It's like a muscle that gets tired. So if you use your self-control a whole bunch, it literally wears down and then you have less self-control. It's actually really cool. The research on this is truly fascinating. But the point is that there ends up being a lot of stuff we do that we don't even realize we do because it doesn't follow our neat, clean rules for how we think we're supposed to act. So we're just like, nope, that's not me. I'm not doing that. And people talk about time blindness. We have habit blindness. We have behavior blindness. We have major blindness to the ways that we communicate. This is so big in relationships because with relationships, there's other people there to witness us. And in relationships, it's like something comes back to you. So like you put something out and then something comes back. And what you receive is going to be directly related to what you put out. And it depends on the person that you're communicating with. But what I'm saying is if you respond the same way always to people doing similar things, you're always going to get the same response. If you change how you respond to things, you're going to get it's going to be a completely different scenario. So like in relationships, when you get stuck in those loops of having the same argument over and over, having the same fight over and over, having the same conversation over and over, having the same meltdown or feeling the same way again and again, if you can change the way you respond in that relationship, it will change everything. The whole dynamic will shift. But in order to do that, you have to like become open to seeing your shadow, really. But like, what are you doing? How are you behaving? How are you showing up? How are you responding? What's your tone? What are you saying? What's the like energy that you're holding? How are you receiving that? Are you receiving it? Whatever it is. And so are you taking it on? There's so many ways that we can show up to any given thing. But what happens is we have these shadowy patterns, behaviors, ways of being, ways of responding, habits that can take over when we get triggered, right? When we're in uncomfortable situations, when certain patterns start to emerge. So it's like that thing happens, for me it's like old men telling me, talking down to me. I receive it as them talking down to me, and then I get like uh, I don't know the word. I guess I just become a bitch. it it like it it brings up my sort of like, ugh, you know, and then that brings out this part that I don't have control over. I'm just giving this as an example. You know, it's like that part that behavior pattern that I'm not seeing, you know, that I'm not acknowledging. So it perpetuates the pattern, right? Because if I don't like being talked down to by old men and then they talk down to me and then it makes me behave like a little brat, well, they're gonna keep talking down to me, aren't they? Because I'm acting like a child. And so I have to be able to see that. I'm creating that by acting like a brat in that situation. I'm not saying I do that. Just using it as an example. Um, so shadow work is big because a lot of times if we have this shadowy part of us that maybe like can't handle being seen, doesn't feel comfortable receiving help, you know, pride, feels like a failure if we have insecure. Like there's so many things that we could have going on in our shadow, totally normal things. Nothing wrong with those things. It's not like who you are. It's just these shadowy parts, but that could be preventing you from being able to find a better job, be open to job opportunities that come to you, ask for a raise, do the work that you actually want to be doing, getting help in your job or getting the promotion or going after the promotion. There's just a lot that can be in our shadow. And it really behooves us to investigate it. It really behooves us to bring it into the light. And I know I did an episode about if your magic's not working. And well, if your magic's not working is probably one of these, there's probably some shadowy thing going on here. And I'm going to do more episodes on this because I want to talk about existential kink, which is great practice, a great shadow work practice. I want to talk about being embodied. That's a whole world of somatic work. I do want to mention that I have another podcast called Penetrate Radio, which you should totally check out if you're really into this shadow work side of things, and if you don't already know about it. Um, the thing is that shadow work is a big part of magic. And, you know, I did the alchemy episode a few weeks ago and I talked about solve and coagula. Solve is the breaking down and coagula is the building something new, right? Shadow work is breaking apart what's already there. And a lot of times that just means very simply shining a light on ourselves to the reality that we are capable of all kinds of weird stuff. Like we're weird and we have weird kinks and weird desires and weird impulses. And we can have temper tantrums and we can fly into a rage and we can break stuff. And we just don't even, you know, it's okay. Like I I think that the biggest thing I'm trying to convey here, just circling back to what I was saying earlier, is when you own your whole self, you don't become evil. You're not going to become a monster. Like you can own your monsters without becoming a monster. You just acknowledge that part and you can accept that you have that there. And from there, it's a negotiation. Okay. Because now it's like, oh, I see that I have this. And now I can take the reins. It was just running amok before. It's like there's a squirrel in your house and it's running around shitting everywhere. Well, if you see that you know, until you know that it's a squirrel, there's nothing you can do about it. It's just running around shitting in your house, right? Once you know it's a squirrel, you can trap it. You can build it a little squirrel house and keep it contained. You could shoot the fucking thing. Generally, with ourselves, we don't want to shoot it. We want to be like, oh, cute little squirrel. I see you. You just want to live here too. That's okay. Let's build you a cage so that you can do it in a way that's not destructive to the rest of the house, right? That's what we're going for with shadow work. It's bringing it into the light, acknowledging that all of our parts, this is crucial. All of our parts want what's best for us. That's the true fact of it. It's you. This idea that there's a part of you that's working against you, that's trying to like sabotage you. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. That's not how it works. There are parts of you that might be sabotaging you inadvertently, but they're not doing it on purpose. You are not sabotaging yourself on purpose because you are you. All of your parts want what's best for you. And sometimes they've learned ways of behaving that don't serve you. And they've learned certain things and have certain responses to things that don't serve you. And that's okay. Because once you know that, once you see that, once you acknowledge that that's there, you can look at it and say, "Wow, I see you. And let's try doing it a different way. Let's try not doing that. Let's try a different approach, and maybe that will be better at helping us get what we want." And so the shadow is actually it's capable of causing great chaos in our lives if we don't confront it. And that's just the reality of it. And so a big part of this is taking responsibility for our true role in things, taking responsibility for how much power we could have if we allowed ourselves, if we were willing to go there, if we we're willing to be that thing that we thought we were better than. It's a humbling experience. It's a humiliation. It hurts the ego because the ego, we want to feel like we're better than that. We want to feel like we're better than this, that we aren't that. And part of this work is accepting that some parts of us might be a little dysfunctional, might be a little fucked up, might be a little need some help. And that's okay. Like, we're not perfect. When we hold ourselves to the expectation of being perfect all the time, that is just a recipe for like crazy being overtaken by monsters, right? So it's hard to own our shit. And I'm not even saying that you need to go out and do this in all your relationships. What I don't want is for you to be like, oh, everything is my fault and go take on other people's shit and be like, oh, when you treated me like shit and I was mad about it, gosh, I was such an asshole. Like, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. And in fact, you don't have to share this with anybody else. Like, you don't have to bring this into your relationships at all. And certainly, I don't recommend it until you've done some of the internal stuff yourself. So it's not about other people. We're not thinking about, we don't have to own anything for anyone else. It's really for you to see yourself, investigate yourself, and because you can't change other people. And obviously, there are relationships that we care about. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like the first step is not to apply this to your relationships. The first step is to look at yourself and be like, okay, yep, I see that I did that. And maybe there will be things in relationships where you're like, wow, I didn't even realize that that's how I was doing things. And sometimes it is helpful to have other people point stuff out to us. And sometimes we can't hear it from other people. Sometimes we have to see it for ourselves. So this was a lot. I'm saying a lot about shadow work here, and I'm saying a lot about being a human. I hope that this was helpful. If you are new to shadow work, then definitely check out my other podcast, Penetrate Radio. And I do incorporate it into all of my programs because I think it is an essential piece of magic, because magic is a personal evolution. Magic is about growing as a person, and shadow work is just a really key piece of that. It's really hard to create major change in your life without addressing the shadow, because you'll just keep doing the same things. You'll just keep falling into the same patterns, the same habits. So it's just really good to be willing to look at yourself. And I would say, just to give you a little something to start with, the best way, because the thing is, if you can see it, it's not your shadow, right? If you know that you have that trait, it's not your shadow. So, what I find really helpful is to actually list out all of the traits that you are like, that's not me. Whoops. Like, whatever those qualities are, whatever those behaviors are that like really you're like, that's not me, that will never be me, I don't do that. That's the first place to start. That's probably the things that are worth looking at. I would make that list, and then I would look at it and be like, okay, how do I do this? Where have I done this? How has this actually shown up? And it's uncomfortable, but it is so liberating. And then you can start to unravel because we all create this story of ourselves. And if you're somebody who's really self-deprecating and you're somebody who like takes on a lot, I also want to just throw out there that there's a golden shadow, right? There's a part of us that we won't accept that is kind and caring and loving and deeply invested in the well-being of others and humanity and the people around us and our communities. And that can also be a piece of it. So the shadow isn't only monsters. There's also fairies and angels in your shadow. So I'll just leave it at that. Let me know if you want more of this. I definitely will be doing an episode about existential kink and somatics. So I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for listening.